We're going to meet a teen who's not letting a devastating injury prevent him from climbing to success.
Braydon Butler loved motocross, and he was good at it, very good. When he was just 8 years old, he rode his off-road motorcycle into second place in Alabama's Motocross Championship Series. But shortly after, disaster struck. During practice, his bike malfunctioned. While in midair, Braydon was tossed over the handlebars and landed on his head, hard. Rushed to the hospital, it was discovered that Braydon had seriously injured his brain, and that affected control of his body. Life quickly changed for the young athlete, but it didn't keep him from finding new mountains to conquer, literally. He's now a competitive paraclimber and ranks third in the world. Wow, that's quite an achievement. What exactly happened that day when you were thrown from your bike?
So I was just practicing before a local race. I just needed to finish this race, just get across the finish line, and I would seal that second place position in the state of Alabama for the motocross championship. But things didn't go my way in practice, and my gears eventually locked up in midair when I was practicing a 60-foot double in practice. This caused my wheels to stop spinning and to go over my bars and land directly on my head, causing a traumatic brain injury and a hemorrhagic stroke. I was then taken from the track and airlifted all the way to Children's of Alabama, where I was treated for a month.
That must have been absolutely frightening. What did the doctors tell you?
When I was in the hospital, the doctors actually told me I would never be able to walk again, and that we were going to need a wheelchair ramp to get into my house, and I was going to have a lot of limitations in the rest of my life. However, they were wrong.
So how wrong were the doctors?
These doctors were very wrong. I actually ended up walking out of the hospital unassisted. I handed my mom the cane and walked directly out of that final door to get out of the hospital.
It must have felt great to literally walk out of the hospital. But the injury was still a serious setback.
The injury definitely put a big obstacle in the way for me to be a competitive athlete, but also just a human living a day-to-day life. I had to relearn how to talk, walk, and even brush my teeth all over again in the hospital. But thanks to amazing physical therapists and occupational therapists, I was able to limit how great these obstacles were. However, now I'm left with a thing called left neglect. So the left side of my body no longer communicates with my brain.
I understand that makes it difficult for you to control your left leg and arm. But you also faced another difficulty, bullying.
I definitely ran into some trouble with bullying when I came back to school. I came back to school in 4th grade, and it started just when I came back. I stopped being that really cool kid who raced motocross and left school early every weekend to the kid who limped when he walked and his left arm raised up like a chicken wing. So I was left out and excluded so much. Wasn't allowed to even play football on the playground just because I was disabled and all these different things. But it really got bad when I got to 6th and 7th grade in middle school because things really changed. Kids start to get mean, and they start to realize that I was different than them. And it got so bad to the point where I had to leave and go to a different school in 8th and 9th grade.
As if you didn't already have enough to deal with. There are probably a lot of kids like you who experience the ugliness of bullying. What's your advice?
If you're going through bullying, a great piece of advice I have for you is that you're not the only one. There's so many other people who are also experiencing the same thing, or maybe even worse. So really go seek help and talk to other people who can benefit you and give you some advice on how to handle it the proper way.
Well said. Let's get back to paraclimbing. What is it exactly?
Paraclimbing is a branch of competitive rock climbing. Paraclimbing is where many different climbers of all different disabilities, who, whether it's an injury or whether they were born with it, compete in about 10 different categories. Categories for blind people all the way up to categories for people who don't have the use of their legs, and they actually only climb up an entire wall by canvassing or just using their hands. It's crazy.
Speaking of crazy, you've not only qualified for the national paraclimbing team, you're its youngest member. What is it like competing against athletes more than 10 years older than you?
Yeah, so I am the youngest member on the U.S. paraclimbing team. I'm also the youngest person in my category, internationally. The closest person to my age is 12 years older than me. It's so crazy to compete against these older guys who have so much more experience and are so much stronger. But I'm definitely able to keep my own.
That's truly impressive. And you have your sights set on the Paralympics in 2028. How's that going?
I'm super stoked and really hoping that paraclimbing gets pushed through the 2028 Paralympics, and I've already started my preparations. Hopefully I'll be going to college somewhere out west so I can train as hard as possible to prepare for these 2028 Paralympics.
We'll be rooting for you. Best of luck.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
After his accident, Braydon feared his injury would be an obstacle to his love of sports. But he says he's learned to take the setback in stride. In fact, he wants to use his story to inspire others. he does a lot of motivational speeches. Braydon's also raised thousands of dollars for the hospital that he credits with saving his life, Children's Hospital of Alabama. For Teen Kids News, I'm Benjamin.